you, Daniel from Wolverhampton Music Service, and in this video I'll be showing you some tips for getting from the low register notes to the high register notes smoothly over what we call the break. Now the break is that point between the low notes and the high notes, actually between the notes B flat, the highest note of the low register, and B, or B natural, the first note of the upper register. So we have B flat and B natural. So this is particularly important when we are playing scales, slurred or legato scales especially, but the combination of notes can be different. For example, if you're playing F major, then you would go from B flat in the low register to C in the high register. And if you were playing scales of G major or C major, then you would play A as your highest note in the low register, going to B or B natural in the high register. Just check those fingerings for B. Right hand little finger on the key and left hand little finger. And for C, just the right hand little finger on the top key. So there are various ways of getting from the low register to the high register, and the main purpose of this video is to show you how you can try to do that and get a nice smooth change from one register to the other. So the first important thing to think about is the position of your hands and fingers. When you're playing either A or B flat, you are just playing one key or two keys at the top of the clarinet, the A key and the B flat key, thumb key. When we go up to B or C, we're putting all the fingers down, and in the case of B, both little fingers down. So it's really important to keep your fingers as close to the holes as possible and your little fingers right over the keys that you need for B or C. When you put your fingers down, you put them down firmly and as much as possible all together at the same time, making sure that there are no gaps over the holes, which is why it's really important to keep them in position over the holes and over the keys. The second most important point is breathing. When you're playing the notes with all the fingers down and the keys, then you do have to take a firm breath, blow firmly to get that note. B natural or C. So it's really important that we do the same for the lower note as well, even though it's very easy to play the A or the B flat very quietly without very much breath at all. But remember, we're having to go to a note where we need more air, so you need to blow firmly for the lower note as well. Now, there are various ways in which you can approach this, and one of them is to start with just individual notes tongued, and individual breaths as well, to make sure you've got a good sound for both. So in F major, from B flat to C, we would tongue the B flat and the C. And that's with separate breaths, and it makes it easier to get each note to come out. Then the next stage, when you feel comfortable with that, is to do the same thing, but in one breath. Tongue each note in one breath. And when you feel comfortable with that, getting a good sound for both notes, then we can try slurring the two, tonguing the first note and then slurring up in the same breath to the second one. Now when you've managed the slur up then it's very important also to go back and slur down again. Another way you can approach it is to start with the higher note first and practice slurring down to begin. So for B to A, start on B with all the fingers and 2 little fingers. In separate breaths and separate tonguing. Then now with separate tonguing in one breath. And now slurring, only tonguing the first note. Once you've got the slur successfully played when you're coming downwards, then you can go back upwards, which is a bit harder, of course. But of course, having played the B first of all successfully, then you're more likely to get it when you go back to it after playing the A. Depending on the size of your hand and fingers, you may wish to try different fingering to the ones I've just been using. The alternative fingering for B is just the right hand little finger by itself, plus all the other fingers down, of course, on the very lowest and furthest key. So the left little finger is not used. And the alternative fingering for the C would be now the left little finger. So I'll just turn to show you that on the outside key, the one sort of sticking out a bit. So right hand key for B, left hand key for C. And then of course the last thing really is to practice repeating that exercise, going back and forth between high and low notes to try and get used to it, doing it as smoothly as possible. The more you do it, the better it'll be. So starting with A. And there is a bit of a shortcut actually if you are having to go back and forth between those 2 notes a lot, and that is you are able to keep your right hand fingers and little finger down all the time. So I'm only using my left hand. Of course, there aren't many opportunities when you can do that, and certainly not in the scales. You can also go from B flat to C, keeping your right hand down as well. So don't forget, 2 main things: fingers have got to be close to the keys, ready to go down firmly. And secondly, a deep breath and blow firmly through the clarinet to get a good loud sound for both notes, in the one in the low register and the one in the upper register. So keep practicing that. Good luck, and don't forget to look out for more videos released by the Wolverhampton Music Service. Thank you.